Trying to decide whether that new game is worth your $60? Or maybe you're just wondering if an old game is worth your time? Well, you came to the right place. This is the only podcast that tries to answer the question,
should I buy it though?
Hey everyone, welcome back to Should I Buy It Though? I'm Giancarlo Herrera, communist superstar.
I'm Amanda Costa. Is that what it sounds like?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh,
You got
okay.
it, you got it.
Nah, whatever. I'm Amanda Costa and I'm mad.
Oh.
I'm
Next.
Nick Palazzo, and I'm a goddamn superstar.
And I'm TJ Barry, and I'm just happy to be here.
That was my favorite one.
This week we're talking about Disco Elysium, baby.
Yeah, we are.
Yay!
If you go back to our first episode, it was one of my, it wasn't top 3, but I think it was the next one down, honorable mention. So, welcome everyone. I guess just for anyone who may not know, Disco Elysium came out, I believe, last year, 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
I thought it was way back when. Not way back when, but I thought it was 2017 or something.
No, brand new, baby.
Nice.
And it follows the kind of more traditional RPG mechanics where it's a lot of reading, a lot of conversations, pointing and clicking, exploring, going back to the same places. It's very, very traditional RPG with some really funky style added into it. Style, not so much in presentation, although obviously we'll be talking about all this stuff in a second, but the substance is very funky. It's very disco. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess let's open with our experiences with it. I played it. I bought it way back when, played it for a little bit, didn't really get into it for a while, and then finally, earlier this year, I finally was able to sit down and really engage with the game, and I was not able to put it down for a while until I finished it. And I think, while I certainly haven't seen everything there is to see in the game, I had a pretty deep run, I think. Pretty much almost all the missions I encountered, I finished. Although I know for sure there's tons of stuff I just never saw at all.
Well, I had the lovely pleasure of streaming the game. So that is up and on Twitch, highlights on YouTube. So if you want to check that out, go for it. But what am I saying? I played it on the PC, obviously, because that's what I do with everything. What else? What are my words? Good lord. I literally finished a stream at 6:55 and then jumped on to here to record. So, sorry if I'm not here. I'm still in the game. I didn't know what it was going into it, as I really never do with any game that these people make me play.
These people.
But I really have no idea what I'm going to say. I'm sorry. Palazzo, go ahead. I don't know where we are right now.
Well, here I am. I had the lovely pleasure of not streaming this. Otherwise, I think my brain would be where Amanda's is right about now. And my throat would be dead because, dear God, there's a lot of reading. I've been playing, I think, for about a week and a half. I started a little early because I didn't play Amnesia, so I got to start this a little early. And I did most missions that I came across, but I also did not nearly come close to doing everything, because apparently that takes 90 plus hours to do.
Yeah. On top of the fact that, we'll talk about it in a second, but I'm pretty sure certain pathways, based on your build, basically, it's almost impossible to do everything in a single game.
Right, yeah.
There's so
definitely.
many different outcomes,
For sure. But, yeah, I finished... Did I finish? Was it yesterday I finished or the day before? I've been done for a couple days now, and I've had time to really mull everything over. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was my experience.
And I didn't experience it. I didn't play, but I got to see some of Amanda playing. And it seemed cool.
Yeah. So I don't know where you guys were interested in starting, but I think if we just want to come out the gate with a big one, I think we could talk about kind of the meat of the game and the substance of it, as far as to me is really the writing in this game. So for those of you listening who may not know, again, really what this game is about. You are essentially playing as a detective. You think you're a detective at least. You wake up essentially in a trashed hotel room. You look in the mirror. You don't recognize the face. You don't know your name. You literally know absolutely nothing. And so in this game, there's a mystery, like an official detective mystery that you're investigating. But to me, really, I think the heart of the game is really the inner mystery of discovering who you are and who that character is. And it just so happens that this case is a scenario where you are forced to explore that and to honestly make decisions about who you are, because you can have totally different builds. The way you build your character in this game is, and the way you interact with a lot of the world is, your personality is split into all these different voices, and some of them are like super simple, like, you know, your perception or whatever, and then there's the shivers, and there's your ancient reptile brain, there's the limbic system, there's all these funky names to represent all these different aspects that make you up as a person. And so when you put skill points into different parts of your personality, you're literally feeding these voices and making them more powerful, and they'll pop up more often. You know, if you start smoking or drinking, you start giving into certain vices and therefore neglecting other aspects of your brain. And so everything you do kind of plays out through these different voices that you're listening to in your head. And it's just something that to me was fascinating, that kind of approach. While the whole, like, you wake up and you don't know who you are might not be a groundbreaking concept, I do think the way they executed it was entirely unique. And I really like that. This game was made by a, oh God, please forgive me, I don't remember the studio right now, but it's a Polish studio. And this is a little inside for some of us, but I know, like Palazzo and Amanda, when we were in college, we had a Polish professor of theater. But I was telling Palazzo the other day that I think that funky Polish sensibility really bleeds through in this game.
Oh, yes.
Where everything is just like a little off kilter, but like in a good way, where you're just like, what is happening? Like, what is this? And I think it, at least from an American's perspective, I suppose, is a really fun flavor to be tangling with that whole time.
It's just the right amount of funk to like keep you engaged, and it's not quite a turn off, but like you feel like it could teeter there at any moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like if they went any heavier, I would be so lost that I just wouldn't know what to do. But it just so happens that like at most there were a few times where I'm just like, what's going on? But you still manage to put together the bigger picture despite the weird phrasings and, you know, all that disco junk that they throw in there. So I'm just curious what that was like for you guys, I guess, engaging with the game through that lens that they present, you know, of the minds, and also what you thought about the style of, I suppose, the text. This game is really text first.
You mean style of the text or style in general?
Style as far as like substance. Yeah. Like that funky flavor.
I got you. Okay. I will say, in terms of like the writing and the text, just talking about humor for a second, this is some of the funniest dialogue I've ever seen in any game. I don't know why this is, but for video games as like entertainment, it's hard for a game to make me laugh, and I don't know why. Like, I'm a pretty easy person to make laugh. I laugh at everything. But for video games, like, I don't find myself actually laughing out loud too much. But in this game, I feel like every single dialogue option, I'm like, that's hilarious. I gotta click that just to see what the response is. The only other game I could see that in is maybe the Persona games, but in this one, oh my God. I think I sent a couple screenshots to John, like, this is fantastic. Yeah. I think at one point the guy says, like, this town is pornographically poor. And I'm like, that is such a great way to phrase that. But, I found myself constantly laughing. Which sort of made up for the other moments of constantly reading that I didn't enjoy, because there were a lot of dialogue options to read through, and they weren't always funny. So it's a pro and con there. A lot of reading, but there's also a lot of funny things to keep it lighthearted and keep you moving, you know? Yeah.
I agree with Palazzo that I do think the writing is fantastic, and a lot of funny moments, not only in the writing, but just in the structure of the game and how you go about things. I liked how it really is completely dependent on you and the different paths you can take. Which, I mean, the dialogue options that they give you, I found myself clicking every possible option, even though, like, I'm not just gonna be like the strong arm man type. I want to see what the self-deprecating dialogue option will come up with for the person I'm talking to or whatever. I'm sorry, my words are like everywhere. But I really liked how they went about it. I liked how much freedom they kind of give you, even though, like, although they give you a lot of freedom and everything is kind of very open-ended, it's all still confined. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I think is just really cool. I like how they went about it. I think it's very interesting. I think
Yeah.
it's a great job. You know what I mean?
It all takes place like on one little city street block, essentially. And the context of the entire story, 30 plus hours of a video game, is just in this little tiny corner of a town, which I thought was super cool and super intriguing. So you really get to know every single person in that town as the game progresses. And in terms of a murder mystery investigation type of thing, that makes it easier to keep things straight in your head. That's part of the reason why I didn't like that there was so much dialogue, because I feel like it became confusing for no reason occasionally, not always. I will say, compared to something like Morrowind, where there was also a lot of reading, I didn't give a shit what was happening in that game. This, like, credit to the dialogue, everything that was going on in the game and the narrative made me want to continue to read a lot of those giant paragraphs of text, which is hard for me to do. But that credit to the storytelling, that, like, I wanted to find the next piece of information to get me to the next puzzle to solve. I just feel like they could have done it in less words sometimes, and that might have made me enjoy certain sections a little bit more, especially the beginning, which was a slog for me.
I would agree that the beginning is probably a little tough to get into, especially if you're not in the right mindset.
Yeah.
When I initially bought the game, however long ago, I had just heard like a lot of praise for it, but I wasn't really sure how it would work in practice. And so I don't think I was ready to engage with it in the right way until, like I said, I really picked it up later this year. But I don't know. I love all the reading and all of that just because I find all the text so flavorful. And again, the mystery really just discovering who this guy is and who you want him to be and how you can shape that and seeing how it plays out in different scenarios. It made me really want to engage with people as much as possible, at least on my end.
Yeah, because there's really a double mystery going on. You're not just trying to solve the main case of the dead body that you find. You're trying to figure out who you are as well. Is that a spoiler? No, right?
No.
Okay.
I think that's a fair thing to give away. And like I said, I mean, I don't know how much you guys would agree with this, but I really do think that the inner mystery is the actual game, even though you don't believe that, you don't know that at first.
Right.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
That's what I cared more about, so I just assumed, is this what the game wants me to care more about? Because it seemed to like really focus on that more within the dialogue options than actually solving the case that you're there to solve.
Yeah, and the funky, I guess, like cutscenes, so to speak, as well.
Yeah.
I guess. I felt like it was, for me at least, I felt it was pretty balanced within like your inner thoughts versus like the actual dialogue with other characters to discover both, you know, who you are as a person and also uncover the mystery that's going on around whatever the heck. But Revachol, sorry. But yeah, I liked how they went about it. I do agree, it's a lot of reading, and I don't know if it was because I was streaming and I felt like a pressure where I was like, I don't want to read all of this because that's also just like not entertaining. I think depending, like, okay, for John, reading and acting out all the different characters, kudos to you. You got that, dude. Me, that's not really who I am. I don't know. I can't do it with every character. I did it with some characters, but there were just points where I was like, this is such a long conversation, and I'm just extremely quiet on stream. This is so boring. So I found myself just kind of skipping, like with Measurehead, for example. Oh my god. Oh my god, shut up. Like, I'm sorry, but shut up.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I found myself doing this throughout the game. I would just click the one button because that usually wasn't like the risky option in terms of dialogue, and I would just go like that until the dialogue was over. I'm like, get me to the next part of the game, please. It's because some of it just seemed like fluff. Some of these side characters, I'm like, I got to the point where I'm like, I don't care what you have to say. Let's go. Let's move. Let's get to the next major part, please. Because it was that beginning section of the game. I want to say until you meet, what's his name? The big guy in the cargo area. Everett. Until you met him, a lot of the game was just me being like, oh my God, I just want to move.
What's happening?
What's going on? I don't want to read any of this. I was interested at the very, very beginning. Now I'm not. And it doesn't help that you move super slowly as well. And your appearance is a big, giant, slow-looking guy. So I'm like, I want this to end. But then it picked up at that point where you talk to Everett and things started getting going. I'm like, okay,
That's funny.
We can enjoy the game again.
I feel the same exact way, because even on stream when I was talking to Everett, I'm like, that's when I actually started like talking through the dialogue actually. So yeah, which I think it's a interesting choice to have, like, the voice actors only voice the beginnings of some conversations.
Yeah.
Very specific dialogue options did they give for the voice actors to voice, and others are just, okay, we're done, here's text, read it, do it.
It's kind of like Morrowind in that way.
You know, and Morrowind, I like this game more than I like Morrowind.
Me too, 100%. I agree.
I feel like that goes without question.
I don't know, man. I like Morrowind a lot.
Okay, John. Listen. I don't know what's going on with you.
I guess I've just determined after this game, anything that's not a Japanese RPG, it's so hard for me to get into. I don't know why. Just the style, the way that they handle RPGs, it's so different and so much more.
This is my favorite kind of game.
Oh, boy.
I don't know. I think this game was pretty well executed. I think they did a lovely job. At least right now, that's how I feel. I didn't finish the game, by the way. Should have probably said that at the beginning. Sorry. I didn't finish. If you watch this,
Amanda's like about to enter the final sequence.
I'm so mad.
I'm probably so mad. Maybe like 2 hours left. I don't know.
I'm so angry. If you watched the stream, you saw it.
I do think this is one of the most or more stylish games that I've played, in terms of how they handled like text, like you said, because everything is color coded based on what what's it called? What thought you're about to have. So if you're about to have like a limbic thought, the dialogue will be yellow. It's like, oh, here comes the thought. And the game was very good at, I don't know, pleasing the senses in terms of accomplishment. Like when I found an item or I accomplished a task, it would be like giant green letters and XP popping up. And I'm like, ooh, I feel good about what I just did. I don't know what I did, but it feels nice. And it was good at indicating like white checks and red checks in like bold letters. It was just stylistically pleasing, I guess, to my personal senses. So I knew when things went wrong and when things didn't. Just a little thing that I enjoyed.
Stylistically, I think the game is gorgeous. I love that like the menus and all of that. They almost look like collage or like, you know, old buildings that have been painted over multiple times. Like they just have that texture and that feel to it that I think is also very unique to the game. There's a really interesting video that I saw, ages ago. I could not tell you who made it, but it's with like one of the lead, I believe, developers, if not directors. and he's talking about just how they went about designing the interface for the game, because the text is so important.
Yeah.
And so picking the way that the text is going to be presented to the user to really make that feel alive and to communicate things effectively, kind of like to the tune of what you're saying, all of that is very intentional. And just see, I always find it interesting seeing behind the scenes stuff like that when you think about like, wow, this game, even with like, if you kept like the Rockstar writing or whatever, it could still be like a hot pile of trash if it's presented to the user in the wrong way, especially a game like this that is so text heavy, where most of the lines are not voiced and stuff like that. So I don't know, it gives me an appreciation for that sort of thing. And I really do appreciate the aesthetic of this, where it's all a little grimy in like a very beautiful way.
Yeah.
Which I think
like
reflects
the main
the city
character.
and the character, and it really does all it's a cohesive artistic unit.
Yeah.
Something I'm interested, before we talk about, I guess, game mechanics and all of that, as far as the text and the way it's presented, because there's a lot that goes on here. There's a lot of politic and social commentary and all of that. And I found it to be one of the more interesting parts of the game, especially because the game kind of forces you to define who you are. Like, there is no gray area. There is, but even the gray area is defined. Like, if you choose not to take a side, the game starts commenting on you for being like basically like weak and indecisive, and like it starts poking fun at you. So I found all of that stuff interesting. I'm just curious how much you guys engage with, because since this is a fully made up world, Revachol is not a real place, the RCM, all of this stuff is created for the game. It's very weird to have to learn the politics of a place that doesn't exist. It's one of those barriers, like when you start reading something like, I don't know, Game of Thrones or something like that, you're like, what is going on? And so in a game, especially when you don't know anything to begin with, which is clever, because it's a good way of being like, hey, you have to ask these questions because you genuinely don't know. But I'm just curious how engaged you were with that aspect of the game, kind of the world.
Very engaged, I think, because it really put me into the shoes of a person, the detective, that wouldn't know the politics of this place. Not just because he lost his memory, but because, like, he's visiting there from a different precinct. Like, this is stuff you would have to learn anyway. You would have to ask all these questions and get every little bit of minutia detail in order to solve the case. You have to sit there for God knows how long inspecting every part of a body or every little clue, talking to every single person in the town. And I think it was a lot more manageable to keep track of everything than, like, say, a Game of Thrones, where there's so many different characters and so many different kingdoms and so many different things are happening. And this, everyone's part of the same plot here. It's one little district, and the game delivers each piece of new information to you in such a way where it's not too much of an overload. I think the text can be an overload in how much you have to read, but in terms of just the information they're giving you, it really wasn't that too much to keep track of for me. So I definitely appreciated that, for sure.
I'm a little on the fence about it, not gonna lie. Again, I don't know if it was because on stream I just it was just so much information coming at me at once. Not at once, but at the very beginning, I feel like that was where a lot of the dialogue was going, between what they were saying about a race war and all the stuff with the strike and communism and liberals and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, this is too real. I want out. Please, God, save me. But I think once I was more into the game, and once I started to develop the character more and understanding where the character was coming from and just why they were there, I think that's when I started to care more. Also, meeting the other characters and seeing Kim, for example. I don't know, I really enjoy talking to Kim. I think Kim is basically your sidekick, another lieutenant who is on the case with you.
Kim is bae. He's bae.
Kim is bae. Kim is just a lovely person to have, and I really liked when there were comments on race and stuff like that. Kim you know, although Kim wouldn't necessarily say anything, the dialogue would always be like, Kim like makes a face at that remark or is now smiling softly at you or something like that. And I was like, I can like picture that so well also, which the game just did a great job at that too. But yeah, it was a lot, though it was a lot of information. It just helps in developing the world. I fully believe it helps in just immersing you in that world. And yeah, it's a lot, but I mean, I think I'd be kind of sad without it. I don't think I'd be as, it wouldn't mean as much.
And the fact that your character is kind of like a blank slate, you could make him as much of an asshole as you want, or you can make him as much of like a good guy as you want. And that helps shape the characters more, which in turn helps the world building because they'll react based on what you say. And there's like 5 or 6 different things that you could say for every single interaction, which shapes who you are as a character, which shapes sometimes how Kim is as a character, and it shapes the world around you. And everything is sort of reacting off of you, and you're reacting off of the world, and they kind of complement each other very well throughout the game. And that immersed me even more into it.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, but I was just gonna say, I think Kim is worth talking about as a companion, but as a game mechanic, kind of, because I don't know about you guys, but like I feel like the tendency for at least a number of people, myself often included in games, is just like, you know, until the game really makes you care, like it's a fantasy world, I can do whatever I want, you know. Those little kids that are like yelling obscenities at me, I'm gonna wave my gun at them, like why not? Who cares? It's a game. Like, obviously, I'm not gonna wave my gun at kids in real life, but
Of course not. I know.
You know, and so, but I think what they do very cleverly with Kim is having this like overseer mechanic, to really, if you have a sense of shame, try and appeal to it whenever you do crazy stuff. And very quickly, I learned I was just like, I kind of because Kim will speak up rarely, but from time to time, and then it's like, you know, if he's not on your side, if he thinks you're an idiot, like you feel like an idiot. And so I was like, all right, let's get our act together. Let's stop waving guns at children and doing that kind of stuff. But I think it's interesting. It's one of the most effective companion systems I've felt in terms of like making me really care about my decisions, even if I wasn't like doing anything, but just as far as what I was saying. The closest thing I can tie it to, and this is going to be such a dumb like specific reference, but in Fallout 4, I fell in love with Nick Valentine. Nick Valentine was my companion for the entire game. Before I met Nick Valentine, I joined the Brotherhood of Steel, who historically are not very big fans of synths. And so when like the end game came around, I went to go ask the Brotherhood of Steel for help. And the moment I saw Nick Valentine didn't like that, it shamed me, and I was like, oh god. And Nick Valentine said something to me, and I was like, you know what, screw this, and I burned the Brotherhood of Steel down for Nick Valentine.
Yep.
And Kim kind of had, you know, that similar effect, but less because I'm endeared to him and more because I was like, I feel like I need this guy's respect. I don't know why, but
They do it in a subtle way, too, because I didn't realize I had such a connection with Kim until I went to go sing karaoke at one point, like 3/4 of the way through my experience. And I failed it. I failed miserably. Everyone hated the song. But afterwards, Kim just stood there and he's like, you know what? You sang from the heart, though. I respect that about you. And I'm like, Kim, you liked it. You really did. And just Kim's approval made me feel so happy about myself. And I'm like, wow, I didn't realize I loved you this much, Kim, but I do.
I didn't realize I loved you this much. I also like, I mean, maybe it's just me, like, could totally be wrong, but there are moments where you make certain decisions or you say certain things where you're like, this is stupid, like, this is clearly not correct, but I'm gonna say it because, like, life's too short. And Kim will play along with you as well, but at first that was like a big no-no. So I like how, at least I think this was intentional, but I like how the game has Kim growing alongside you, and it really shows like the relationship you are actually developing with your side partner, whatever. I think it's beautiful.
And it is molded by what you do. So your relationship to Kim is very different from my relationship to Kim.
That's true. Literally, there was a point I texted John and Nick, and I was like, I lost Kim. And they were like, what? How did you lose Kim? What do you mean? What did you do? And I was like, I sent him away with the body. He went to go, whatever, do the thing he needs to do. Like, don't worry about it. It's fine.
I don't know. I thought he died or something. I got worried.
I don't blame the way I phrased it was poor. Poor word choice. I will give you that. But also, I was worried because I'm like, am I not going to see Kim again? Is this done? But then...
No, I needed Kim by my side at all times, because if I didn't know what to say, my get out of jail free card was the option that would be like, let Kim speak, or Kim's about to talk, let him do it. I'm like, I'm going to let Kim talk, because I think I'll mess this up if I talk.
My favorite thing, though, is towards the end of the game, there is a period of time where, like, you lose Kim. And that's basically the game saying, like, hey, I don't know if you've been kissing up to Kim, but if you gotta go do some dirty stuff, now's the time he won't be able to see. And I think it's very clever how they thought that out, and give you that freedom without making you... They allow for that complexity in not forcing you to be like the obviously good answer or the obviously bad answer. Sometimes you don't know how people are going to respond to stuff. Like sometimes I said something that I was like, haha, this is right. And then I'd get shut down by someone else and I'm like, okay. So I like, again, because I do really feel like the core of the game is discovering this character's self. I love how it lets you layer different stuff on and complicate that. There's the politics, there's the personal history, there's your own demeanor, you know, and the subtleties there. And you also see people shifting in how they respond to you. It just... We can, you know, you can harp however you want on both on games in general today, and also, I guess, in this game, whether, you know, you ever actually have any real choice. But this game, at the very least, felt like your choices were significant.
Yeah, and your subtle growth as the player with the game is very well done, too. Like, from the very start of the game, when you first meet Kim, it's like, this guy's kind of an arrogant asshole, to the point at the end of the game where I'm like, I will take a bullet for Kim. I will do it. And also with yourself as the player character, it's like, this guy's kind of a piece of shit. All the way to the end where it's like, no, I'm actually a cool guy. I'm smart, too, and I'm a human being, you know?
I think
and you could not be, too. You could
also very well not be. It depends on you and your choices,
It's super interesting, I think.
I think it's really sweet how you just went from talking about them in the third person to talking about them in the first person, which is just, I don't know why, because you're like, you'll start the game and he's kind of a douchebag, but then by the end of the game, you know, you kind of love yourself and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, look, okay, Palazzo. Which it just goes, I think the game really does do a great job at making you feel for the character in that sense. So I just thought that was sweet.
Absolutely. I think the next big thing narrative-wise is the mysteries of the game. But before we head in that direction, I want to talk about mechanics really quick, because I don't think there's too much to it.
Right.
I know to me, my biggest gripe, which I think we can probably all agree on, is just you move way too slow in this game.
Oh my god! Slow. Oh my gosh! Yes. Sorry.
I see where they're going with it, because there is a time mechanic. Like, there are days and there are hours, and certain people are out at certain times, and you have to go to sleep at some point probably, and all this different stuff. So I understand wanting to have that feel of time passage, but like, I wish, and it might have been too confusing, but I wish they maybe had like a dynamic system where time moved faster when you were walking, and it just let you animate that faster, because a lot of the time is spent on that trudge. Although I also think it builds to the feel of like that realism of the world and making you feel like you're in it. But at times it's just, it wears on you.
Or like a fast travel system, even though it's not a big area. Like, I don't want to sprint to the end of the map again. Please don't make me do it. It got better once I realized when I hit caps lock, he sprints automatically. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I'm just going to keep that on for the rest of the game.
And especially when you share that?
I didn't know if you knew or not. I'm sorry.
What? You see me on streaming the game? Are you kidding me right now? Oh my gosh. I'm double angry.
Well, especially when you reach certain points of the game, because there are times when you're hot on a trail, or even if you're doing a side mission, like, you know exactly where to go. And then there are other times where I'm like, cool, I kind of did everything. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I would just wander aimlessly back and forth, like investigating stuff and not finding anything. And that was when the walk speed would like make me want to tear my hair out because I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yep.
Give me a quest marker, please. I'm a casual.
I had to look up fast ways to pass time, like, because it was getting ridiculous to the point where I don't know how to kill 3 hours, and I just need to. So I know you
that
could
Metal Gear Phantom cigar.
yeah, you could sit on a bench to pass time, but you have to be alone, I think. The biggest help was if you read the case files that you find in a trash can at one point, reading those skips forward like hours at a time, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness, I wish I had this information earlier, so that helped big time. But the game doesn't tell you that. You just have to figure it out.
That's true. And also, Morg, one of the viewers that was on Twitch, who was so gracious in helping me in my playthrough, also said you could buy a book from the bookstore.
Yep.
And you can read a book. And I was like, ah!
And you could play a board game with Kim.
That's so cute! I want to do that.
Amanda brings up another mechanic that's interesting is the money mechanic because, I mean, slight spoiler alert, but not really. You find it out pretty quick. You wake up in debt. And it's very hard to make money in this game, at least up until a certain point where, like, I don't know, I guess as you get to the end game, it's a little easier. But even then, like, I was not really ever loaded. I had more than I needed, but like if I wanted to be crazy and go buy like something super expensive, like it would take pretty much all of my money. How did you guys engage with that? Because like I know it kept me from like, I didn't buy books, I didn't buy things unless I absolutely needed them. That's also, I guess, a common habit of mine in games when it comes to like in-game economies. I'm scared of wasting resources. But in this game particularly, just I felt that like that pressure of not having money, and I was like, come on, dude,
me too,
leave me alone.
Yeah, that was the most immersed I felt in the game, was from the money system. I was scrounging through garbage cans to get my $20 for rent.
Recycling cans for a few cents.
Yeah, I'm like, take my postcard, sir. How much is this worth? $1? Yeah. Oh, yay, I'll take it. It was like, and that bartender's a jerk. I told him off too. He was like, okay, now you owe me more money. I'm like, no, fuck you.
Yeah,
fuck you, sir. Oh my goodness. I'm like, Kim, I can't solve this right now. I need to get $20 before midnight. I need a place to sleep, Kim, please. It was just such a clever way to make you even more immersed with the plight of the main character and sort of just the world that you're in. It was very well done, I think.
I did not struggle with money at all, actually, which is interesting because it seems like you two did.
A little bit.
Literally the first time I think I started, I found a plastic bag and I was like, oh, they said you could collect like bottles for money or whatever, and I was like, okay, cool. So I would, as I was doing my thing, I would find bottles and pick it up. It's like, great, but it wasn't like my task where I was like, I need bottles to make money. So, and even then, when I gave the bottles, I made like $1.50, and I was like, this is nothing. Are you kidding? And then the only thing I've actually sold, I believe, was like a gas canister thing. That's it. But I did borrow money from Joyce.
I did that too.
Yeah. So once I did that, just to pay for the damages or whatever the heck, just for that, and then I was like, all right, I don't really need money. You know what I mean? Especially because you find so much throughout the world that like right now I have like $80 or 80 real, whatever the heck it's called. So
Joyce
I don't know.
Was one of the most intriguing characters to me. I was like, I don't know if you're coming on to me or if you just want a sugar baby to throw money at, or like
I liked her.
If you're trying to take advantage of like the whole political system somehow, which she was, but the air about Joyce was so interesting to me, where I was like, I feel like you're not important at all, but I really want to fully explore your character.
Yeah, there was a few characters like that. I was very interested in her. There's a character in a church that I became very interested in. All the characters are well done. This is sort of sidetracking from the previous topic, but I don't know. I liked a lot of the characters in this game.
Yeah.
I agree.
No, I think all the characters are really well done, and I just love that they're all very distinct.
Yeah.
And not in a way
yeah.
that's easy to pin down, because like you, they're kind of complex.
And I never had a character where I didn't feel a strong emotion towards. I was never like indifferent towards anyone. I'm either like,
Yeah.
oh, I really love you, or I hate you, I can't stand you, or I want to punch you across the fence. That's how I felt about Kuno.
Yeah.
You know, every character made me feel a certain way, and that's just a credit to the storytelling and the writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the last mechanic I want to talk about, and please, if you guys have any that you're interested in discussing, go ahead. But for me, it's kind of the skill check mechanic. So, I mean, this game being a classic style RPG it's very much D&D, the video game, you know, not setting wise or anything, but that classic TTRPG. It literally rolls dice to determine if you succeed or not. It tells you how difficult the skill check is, and then based on how high your skills in there are, it plays an animation with 2 dice, and it shows you what the outcome is, and it tells you whether you succeed or fail, and that affects. Some checks can be tried again later if you get certain items or improve certain skills. Other checks are like one and done, you know, either you make it now or you never do. And I really love that mechanic, and I also think it's super interesting the way that they handle kind of upgrading skills, not just putting points in when you level up, but the fact that the different clothing you wear and stuff all has different abilities. Like you would in a TTRPG game, you know, you find an enchanted armor and you put it on and it gives you plus whatever to tap dance. But in this game, usually to keep things balanced, and especially because you kind of have to lean into whatever build you're making, usually you get a positive to something and a negative to something else as well. So it's something you really have to think about, and there's not like an easy like min-max way to go about it. It's just kind of like what is best for you and the way you're playing the game and what you're doing in this moment. And I really enjoyed it. I like that whole skill check mechanic. I think it made it really interesting, gave it that kind of that true to lifeness that I think kind of is really hard to capture in video games, but is better captured in TTRPGs, where it's kind of like, cool, you are prepared to a certain degree, but it's a roll of the dice, and either it happens or it doesn't, and then you move on with your life and you live with that result. With the exception of one skill check that I believe is forced, and I think
was
it's
just
kind
about
of
to
BS,
say.
but yeah.
I don't think
Before we
it's
get
just-
into that specific one, I'm just curious how you guys felt about that mechanic in general, and you can dip into that, but yeah.
The mechanic was fine for the most part. I like that depending on your build, you attacked certain scenarios in different ways depending on what you had. Like, what's his name? Hammerhead? Measurehead?
Yeah.
You could approach him in completely different ways depending on what build you have, whether it's logic or strength or whatever, which was very cool. I'm like, oh, this whole scenario could play out completely different. Our relationships could be different depending on my build and what skill points I put into my skills. So all of that was super cool, but all this sort of contradicts itself when you get to like the idea that you could just save scum everything, because the autosave is very poor and it doesn't autosave frequently. So if you save before every single skill check, if you fail it, just load it back up again. That might be my gamer brain trying to break the game and get the result that I want, but like it's really that simple. If you fail a skill check, reload it, save frequently, reload it, and just do it again. I didn't do that at the very... Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I don't think that's unique to this game. I think any game with this style of mechanic, you could technically do that as long as you're allowed to manual save. You know?
Well, no, but my thing is, if this is a huge part of the gameplay, this is most of the gameplay, and if you could have a workaround like that for the crux of your game, like, it seems a little broken. You should probably find a better way to handle that, because with Until Dawn, even though that game has super mega major problems, it autosaves in such a way where you can't go back and fix the mistakes you made. You're stuck with what you did. You know what I mean? That game has a countermeasure to that problem.
I can understand that. I would say that it's just kind of like, I think you just have to embrace the game and not do that, but I also fully understand your point.
Right.
But please, sorry, continue with your...
I think that was pretty much it. Yeah, you do have to fully embrace it and not do that, but it gets to the point where also the time system kind of kills you, where if you mess up a skill check, you're locked out of it and you have to upgrade like the next like skill point. But if you aren't really focusing on like strength, or you're not focusing on intelligence, you can't continue to put skill points in there. So you have to wait, I think, until the next day and then it resets. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but that sort of killed my immersion too. I'm like, oh my God, please. Like, I just want to continue. So it's either I sit here and read a bunch of case files again to get to the next day, or I save scum and do it over and over again until I could progress with the darn game, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Amanda, do you have any thoughts on the system, or should we maybe talk about that check?
I think, no, I can agree that the system, it really is left up to chance, I guess. But, man, that one check really pissed me off.
So, essentially what we're referring to is just, like, later in the game at one point, there's a check that, unless I am mistaken, I think you need to succeed to continue.
I think you do.
And it's in one specific skill. I don't really think there's any way to get around it. If there is, I have not encountered it, but it's kind of a pain. Like, I know for me, I had to level that skill up a few times before I finally cracked it. I don't. Bad design decision. I'm trying to think if there's any other way around that point, but I think all of us have run into that problem.
It's so horrible.
I'm just confused. It's the randomest skill. I'm sorry. Yeah. I feel like I'm like, who are you? Why? First of all, that one particular skill within that category, that is my lowest ranking category, right? So, one, I've already messed up. Okay. Two, I'm not looking at that as a thing that I ever needed until I started getting closer to this quote unquote beginning of the end, where you two said, put your skill points into this, it will help. And I was like, okay, but I only have like 2 little slots for skill points there. So I have to rely on other items, which, I'm decked out in like the shirt, the button down white shirt and the tie and the hat that gives me all these extra skill points for this one freaking skill. And then I had that skill, I thought it was pretty, not maxed out, but I thought it was pretty high. And like the chances, the dice, they were like, hey, this is a pretty high chance of you succeeding right now. And then I failed, and then I failed, and I failed, and I'm
Did
so
you
mad.
save right before?
No, I didn't save right before, Palazzo, because I don't think like you. I'm a dingus. So
that's the only way to get through that. It really is.
I really don't. I'm not gonna I don't know what to do at this point, because one, I can't put more skill points into it. Two, by the way, your character, you'll figure this out at the very beginning of the game, is a bit of an alcoholic. And so the entire game, I have stayed away from like alcohol and also drug abuse. I have stayed away from alcohol and the drugs, all of it. And so I go and I'm like, I gotta find something that's gonna help. I have to. And I look, and there it is. There's alcohol, and it says, hey, +1 to this category, skill set, whatever the heck. And I'm like, I'm gonna not be sober. I'm gonna break it for this. And it didn't work, and I'm so mad about it. But anyway,
I mean, that's exactly what happened to me. That was the only time I was not sober in the game, and it was, and I just had to go and find more side quests to do until I could level up again, and put points into it and put on all the items and use the alcohol. And I had to get it up to like, because I failed it multiple times until finally I had like, I could be misremembering, but I think I had like a 90-something% chance to succeed. And then I finally got it.
But I can't like put more points into it.
Yeah.
That's my issue, because I had 2, right? And then I drank the alcohol, and then I have 3. Once the alcohol wears off, like
Yeah.
Because even if I drink the alcohol again, it's not... It's gonna remain the same. You know what I mean?
I will say, the game isn't clear about any of this at all. Because this is like the moment before the final mission. You have to go here in order to progress the game. Doesn't tell you to go there necessarily. Doesn't tell you what skill check to use. It doesn't tell you that there's 3 side missions that could boost your chances of getting through that door by like 5 points. I just happened upon those side missions, and once I got to that door, my skill check was already at like 65% for it just by doing those side quests. I'm like, oh, great. Thanks for telling me, game. That probably would have helped Amanda out a lot.
What side quests are they, Palazzo?
It's the one in the apartment buildings, gives you like a +3, because there's like a second dead body that you might find along your way.
Oh man, when I stumbled upon that, I lost my mind.
I thought that was a super cool quest.
Let me tell you something. I'm sorry, really quick. This game has done a really good job. Even though like there was a point where there are plenty of points in the game where I'm like, I don't care, like just go. But it has such a way of reeling me right back in and being like, hey, look at this. Feel something. And I do. And it's ridiculous.
This was me the whole game. I was like, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Ooh, that's cool. Let me slow down. Ooh,
like
1, 1, 1, 1,
that
1.
mission that you're talking about right now, like I got so sad. Like it hurt me.
Yeah, it's horribly depressing.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyways, but I think that brings us to what, unless you guys have other mechanics you want to talk about, it brings us to,
man, running around. I know we touched about like the slowness of it, but like sometimes I'm clicking and it's just not registering, and I have to click on a door 5 times. I'm like, I have clicked you. I need you to enter, because if you double click, you run, right? And if not, you just do your little WASD up, down, whatever the heck. But sometimes it's just like, hey, I don't feel you, so I'm not gonna move. But I'm like, I swear to God, I'm about to break that mouse or my keyboard.
the game's a little finicky.
It's a little finicky. But other than that, it's fine. That was my main complaint, which you can also watch me complain about on stream, and I yell at Harry all the time.
Well, I think that kind of brings us to the last thing that I want to touch on, which we've already mentioned a few times, but kind of the mystery of the game. And how that all unravels, because there are multiple mysteries that you can find throughout the game. You know, there are the 2 big ones that we've discussed. There is the actual case, and then there is the internal mystery, but then there are little you can do side work, and a lot of times you're discovering plots or finding like new evidence and chasing things down and stuff like that. So I think the game plays well into, if you're looking for like a detective game, like you got plenty of detecting to do in here. But I also am curious, and Amanda, maybe you can't speak on this as much, but I'm curious, Palazzo, and Amanda as well, based on what you have experienced, how satisfied you feel kind of at the end of the day with a lot of this stuff. I think a lot of these are really cool, without spoiling anything about the main quest. Like it and the game in general just gets really funky in ways that I feel like are nigh on impossible to predict.
How satisfied I am in totality, like by the end of it?
Sure. That, or in general, just with like, I guess, the loop of investigating and discovering, following.
Okay, because those are 2 different answers.
Yeah. I want to hear both.
Okay, we'll start with in totality. The best way I could compare this to is a little show called Game of Thrones. You might have heard of it. You're on this journey for how many seasons was it? Like 8 seasons? Fantastic. It was my favorite TV show ever. Even was ahead of Breaking Bad for a little while. Then you get to the final season, and it all goes down the toilet. Ruins the entirety of what you experienced, even though it was a great ride. It didn't end well, and you hate every minute of it just because of that ending. That was me for this game. Disco Elysium was the same way. I was on this roller coaster ride. The gameplay loop of you detecting stuff and trying to get to the next mystery to solve was fantastic. I was engaged. I was intrigued. I wanted to figure out what was going on. Heavily invested towards the end, but once you get to that ending, it just ruined everything else for me. Like, it was not satisfying. It was bullshit. I texted John at one point, like, a prediction I had. I'm like, if this happens, I quit. I didn't say I'm going to throw my laptop out the window, but I should have. And then it doesn't really happen in the way that I
was going to say, it
described,
doesn't happen the way you said it.
but it was pretty darn close. And I'm like, that's such bullshit. Like, no, it invalidates everything you do for the rest of the game. I'm like, how was I supposed to figure this out? Like, I hate it when the detective mysteries do that. It gives you all this information. You feel like you could put it together, and then bullshit comes out of stage left, and you're like, well, great. I couldn't have no matter what I did. So that's how I feel about this game.
That's interesting. I understand why you feel that way. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little disappointed with how the case wrapped up at first. I remember looking it up and being like, are there alternate and like, do my decisions affect like how it happened? But no, like sure enough, it always wraps up pretty much the same way. So
and real quick, even if the thing that I was predicting would happen, even if that wasn't involved in anything at all, I still feel like the answer before you discover that is still unsatisfying. I guess who you figure out the murderer to be. I'm like, no, why? Why is it this?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm referring to more than the crazier stuff. But anyways.
Right.
Yeah, I just find that the resolution, while I agree is not like super satisfying, it's also not like, it's not that it makes zero sense. It's just not what you would hope for in this kind of game, I guess. But what I kind of alluded to earlier was just the fact that I really do think that the main mystery is who you are. And so I don't feel like it spoiled the whole game for me in the way that Palazzo said, because I enjoyed so much of everything else, whether that was getting to know the other characters, getting to know myself, and even the stuff that even the clues that you do put together leading up to, the finale. Although you feel however you will about the finale, I do think everything else was solid enough. And again, that core of who are you was solid enough and had a really solid conclusion in a way that I enjoyed, that it allows me to overlook my disappointment with the way a certain thread gets tied up. But yeah, Amanda, I'm curious. So far, how have you enjoyed kind of being a detective and trying to piece this stuff together?
I think I'm enjoying it. I think I am, because like I get so like hype when I figure something out, and I'm like, oh my god, so good, we're so good, I get so excited. And now I don't know, I'm very scared. I'm very scared for the ending. I'm almost glad that I haven't touched it yet, just because like both of you have just had such different opinions on it, so I don't know. Now I'm just like really nervous. I think also like as soon as we're done recording, I'm gonna jump back on and I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna finish it, and I might even do another stream. Like I don't care. I don't care if we already reviewed it. I don't care. I'll give you my opinion after the fact. I don't care.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I want to finish it so fucking badly. I want to know what. But never mind. I'm done. Okay. I just want to do it.
Do we have, are there any other stuff that you guys want to talk about? Or TJ, do you have any thoughts or questions?
Any questions, TJ?
No, not really.
All right.
Fair.
So cool. I guess, are we ready for a vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here we go. In the case of Disco Elysium, how do we vote? Okay. I think this game is unlike anything else I've ever played. I finished it, and it's left me with an itch that I've... Morrowind maybe kind of came close to scratching, but I still want to play in like more games that feel like Disco. I've been thinking about playing the original Fallouts, Fallout 1 and 2, because they're in that like, point and click RPG style. I just like, I'm insatiable. I think the funky presentation as well as the actual material of the game are delightful. I love the conversations in the inner head. I think the characters are rich. It is a world that I love diving into, and all this, like, there's a mystery on every single corner. I honestly really enjoyed it, and the game is singular in my experience. I've yet to see anything like it. It's, sometimes you're in the mood for something a little more action heavy. Of course, there's really not much action in this game at all. But with the kind of media I like to engage with, I don't know. This is like, it's near perfect. Just in concept. There is I experienced a little bit of disappointment with the ending, but the grander note, the bigger note, the one that to me is really the game, was beyond satisfying. And while I didn't get to do it this time around, I could see myself playing this game many times over the years. So I think it's a must buy. I think people should experience it just to see, the variety in the gaming space.
You want a point and click RPG, you say? You ever play a little game called Pajama Sam?
I have not.
I think that'll scratch your itch real nice.
What?
Anyway, is it my turn?
Yeah. Gotcha.
All right. Look it up, everyone. Look it up. It's a classic. So, yeah, this game last year was nominated for Game of the Year, and I could totally see why. It definitely has moments where it is a fantastic experience. It really is. Storytelling is really good. A little too much reading for my liking. It's $25, so it's not a bad purchase. I do think if you were to buy it, you could get your money's worth. Definitely a long experience, depending on how you play it. Characters were great. Love me some Kim. I'm sorry, the ending just really ruined it for me. Oh boy. And the slowness of the beginning just... I wanted to return it, but I passed my 2-hour limit, so I couldn't. There were too many lows that didn't really outweigh the highs. Or, wait, the highs did not outweigh the moments I felt there were lows. Therefore, I think this game is a do not buy, unfortunately. I'm sorry. It's not for me. I will say, this is my favorite of the types of RPGs that I despise, so... Credit where credit's due. It did a good job there. Yeah. But no, this is a do not buy for me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I feel bad for this one. It really was the ending that killed it for me. I'm sorry. Oh, God.
Amanda.
Oh, man. Man, that sucks.
That sucks, she says.
I guess it leaves me.
If you viewers at home, if you don't watch this on YouTube, you need to watch this one on YouTube.
Please go to YouTube right now. Give us a subscription and a follow on Twitch, and watch this video.
Like and subscribe.
Actually, though, but like, yeah.
Just like look at. I just want you to like. I want you to meme the disappointment in John's face.
We've started.
I feel
posting our video
terrible.
calls.
He's not moved in like a minute.
Yeah, definitely check these out if you want to see some actual like reactions. The Fall Guys one is chef's
He might
kiss.
drive to
That one's
Palazzo's
good.
house right now.
This one's good too.
Yeah. Now, bear with me, okay? Because listen,
Bear with me.
I can't look at the screen.
It's not for everyone.
I think I think it was really, I liked, the beginning. I remember, like, from the moment I started it, the voices that came up, I was like, whoa, this guy sounds awesome. He sounds super cool. And the story is rich, all right? This narrative is rich. If you are into that, you are into that, baby. And lucky for you, I'm into that. This is a should buy. Like, this is straight up you should buy it, though.
There you go.
Face. Look at his face. Yeah, take another picture, DJ. Look at his face. I think you totally should buy this game because I'm not gonna lie, I really do feel like there is pressure, at least for me, I feel like there is pressure when streaming. Because all the times that I've played the game off stream, I've had so much like fun. I have had significantly more fun than I have had on stream. And if you watch me on stream, like the beginnings, I'm boring as heck and I look really bored. So, but every time I touch it off stream, I'm so like ready to go and I'm like, let's do this. Let's solve this case, baby. Let's what is going on, you know? I have a lot of fun with it. I like how open-ended it is. I love the freedom. I love the self-discovery with just the discovery of the world. I'm really, really into it. I do also just really like narrative-driven games, and I think this is a really good RPG. Again, I know my opinion doesn't necessarily hold much weight to many because I
want to revote when you beat the game.
I'll share opinions once I I'll share opinions. John, are you flipping?
But until that day,
In the case of Disco Elysium, you should buy it though.
John is dancing
Go
about this
down
game
to
like
the disco,
Palazzo did
baby.
about Fall Guys.
Oh my god.
I was
TJ.
so ready to start yelling about Amnesia and Fall Guys.
Well,
Y'all-
Amanda
y'all
votes
about to
yes for
download
everything. Does this
masterpiece?
count? Like,
This masterpiece.
Oh, am I getting attacked again? Wow.
No,
this is
you
so new.
good choice. This game is a masterpiece, y'all. It
TJ,
has
did this
flaws,
make
it's
you
not
want to
flawless,
buy it,
but-
TJ?
Nah, I was falling asleep.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
But I mean,
Pearls
to
to
each his
swine.
own. Like, point and click just definitely ain't my thing.
That's fair. I will say I looked at Pajama Sam. It does look something right up our alley. I think we should
It's
check
like
it out.
you're Nancy Drew.
Oh,
you do like point and
Yeah,
click.
sure.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I didn't look it up.
Oh,
Pearls
please look it up. It's a
to-
hoot and a half.
Swine.
Yeah. Go buy the game. Just check it out.
Oh,
Check it
what
out.
a
If not,
relief.
watch a playthrough, you know, if anything.
I was drafting my resignation letter these last 15 minutes.
If this game were a book, I'd say buy it.
Ooh.
But it's a book, but you get to change it's a pick your own adventure book. That's what it is.
It is. I like
Not
it.
with
I
that
like
ending.
the style. I like how they went about it. I think it's very well done.
I mean, Amanda, I do want to hear your thoughts on the end, but like I said, it's just like
course.
the core of the game is you, and that part of the game ended well, so it's fine. Could it have been
Ended
better?
okay.
Maybe,
oh,
but whatever. The good stuff is good. I can overlook that thing.
Good stuff was good.
All right. I need to go sleep for a million years because emotionally I just burned through like 5,000 calories in
You'll
these
wake up
last,
to
like,
a new world.
in this vote. So before we go, I just want to give a very special thank you to all of our founding parents for supporting the show. These are Adriana Alarcon, Juan Sorrija, Will Williams, Ann Baird, Giovanni Sorrija, Andrea Jimenez Neste, Claudia Acosta, Marcy A, Jerry Benetatos, Katrina Scott, Carolina Riverola, Alejandro Alarcon, Alexia Wild, Giovanni Neste, Daniel Utzet, and Zenovia Ash. Thank you all for supporting the show. If you are listening to this and you like what we do, check the links in the show notes. There are links to go support us in all manners of ways. We have a Ko-fi where you can make a small one-time donation. If you want to join us on Patreon, you get access to our Discord, our 24-hour impressions for new games, a bunch of stuff like that. You also get to participate and talk with us about what you want to see about the show moving forward as we kind of decide what we're doing in the future and all of that. Which, hey, we might have some announcements coming in the future, but stay tuned for that. Thank you all so much for listening. Go play some Disco Elysium, baby. And thank you all for indulging me and playing this game. I hope you enjoyed what you did enjoy, because I really love it. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk at you next week.
thank you so much
Goodbye.
for listening. My only other gripe was that there wasn't enough disco music in the game. Okay, bye.
Goodbye.
Just like Game of Thrones, stop at season 6. Goodbye.
Ouch.
Season 7, at least get it right, dude.
No, well, season 6, isn't that the one where at the end they're like, King of the North, King of the North?
You know, the problem is, we're going to get into that.